Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Davalos. I am the health and fitness lead here at the Chamber Center for Wellbeing, and today we'll be going through this presentation all about kind of fitness resolutions, but it's really going to focus on how we can build habits over time and how those habits will kind of lead towards a specific goal that we have. It could be fitness related, nutrition related, but really it's just going to be about habit formation, the things that help out with building habits, and how we can kind of make the nasty habits go away. And recording, got the screen and everything? Perfect. All right, we'll go on to the next slide. So a little bit about myself. Like I mentioned, I'm the health and fitness lead here at the center. I went to Springfield College, that's up in Massachusetts. And after my time at Springfield College, I just went around the country for a little bit, really tried to find the best places that had a mixture of health, fitness, nutrition, functional medicine. And that's kind of how I landed up on the Chamber Center. We encompass all of those principles, so it ended up just being a perfect fit. And then also I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist, but mostly just doing personal training and group training here at the center. So today's discussion, it's really going to start off with just asking these questions. So how can we set ourselves up to succeed? How do we know what to aim for, and how do we keep track of our progress? Each of these questions is vital for, again, trying to not only create habits, but maintain habits over time. And if we want to stay on track, we just need to make sure we know where we're going. So this is a quote. I'll be throwing in quotes here and there just to really emphasize the point. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. And you can think about it just from day to day. Pretty much everything that we do is a habit. From the moment we wake up to the moment that we go to sleep, it's really just a large chunk of habits, one after the other. Most likely your alarm goes off in the morning, you follow the same ritual every single time. And then the other example I like to use is typically when someone, if you are going and showering, you usually go through the same process of washing one body part to the next, to the next, to the next. We never really switch things up. And the reason we do that is it's easier to just have a habit become very automatic and take a lot of the thinking out of the equation. That way we can do a lot more things like cognitively. But anyway, habits are just something that becomes automatic. And if we repeat it over and over again, we can kind of add it to our life and we won't have to think about it much anymore. So if we're trying to add better habits into our life, we just do it over and over again, and eventually it'll just stick. So how do habits work? There's a concept called the habit loop, and it's just going through 3 basic steps. So we can think of it as there's a cue, there's something that you do, which is your routine, and then you're kind of rewarded for it. The example I like to use just from a nutritional perspective is you might feel some stress. Your routine is you eat some chocolate, and then you have that satisfaction of eating the chocolates. Even for myself, and I'm going to throw a lot of examples of just what happens for me during the days, just so you'll be able to relate. But I'm trying to break habits of my own that aren't helping me towards my goals. One of them in particular is just waking up. I hear my alarm goes off, I turn it off, and then instantaneously I go onto Twitter. That became my new routine, and it took me a while to break that habit, as opposed to trying to reconfigure my whole life. As I mentioned at the bottom, the golden rule of habit formation is just replacing that middle portion of the loop. So if we want to try to change our behavior, it's easiest to just replace the routine as opposed to the cue and reward. So we're reverting back to my example. I wake up, I hear my alarm go off. I used to go through Twitter, and then I'd get the satisfaction of feeling like I'm up to date with things. I have recently deleted Twitter, and now I'm just scrolling through things that I find are more beneficial, reading up on things, as opposed to just mindlessly going through Twitter. So I still have the same cue. I still wake up with my alarm. I still have the satisfaction of going through my phone, but the content that I'm going through is different and a little bit more rewarding and beneficial to my goals. So again, the golden rule of habit formation, which we'll touch on a little bit later on in some real life examples, will be just replacing that middle portion. So how do we form habit successfully. There's a few components that we're going to add into it. Two really in particular. The first one we're going to talk about is how we can make small changes cause a big effect. So for a lot of the changes we want to make in our life, we always have that mentality that we want to radically change our lives. So especially with the new year, we always have these resolutions. Maybe we want to start going to the gym 7 days a week. We're going to wake up an hour early to do that, lift for an hour each time, and maybe try to reconfigure our whole nutritional plan as well. I find that to be more detrimental for long-term habit development and your long-term goals. It's almost better if you try to start as small as possible. And there's a concept called atomic habits. It's based off of a book, but it's really about trying to start off with the smallest change that you can possibly make. And when you do that over time, it changes things drastically. It's kind of like a compound interest effect. You start small, and over time, that's really going to expand and make things more beneficial as opposed to having that all or nothing mentality. What may seem small first, again, will lead to a larger change over time. You want to start small, and then when you feel confident with that small change, you kind of just add on to it as you go through and focus in on your goals. So continuing on that small changes and big effect concept, again, one of the quotes I really like is many people think that they lack motivation, but what they really lack is clarity. So when we are trying to develop new habits or really trying to hone in on our goals, we need to really focus on 4 things to make it as easy as possible. And it says it in one of the things. It's called the 4 laws of behavior change. But when we are trying to make things easier on ourselves, we want to make it very obvious. We want to make it attractive, easy, and satisfying. It just allows us to kind of bring awareness to what we really want. And then when we have that awareness, it allows us to kind of hone in on it and change everything around us to make it a little bit easier. We just want to make it such a smooth process as opposed to really working against the currents. There's another thing that I really like when it comes to habits, and we're going to use some examples later on in the presentation, but it's called habit stacking. So habit stacking, you just have to ask the question, what habits do you do every single day? There are things that we have to do pretty much just to survive. And when we recognize those things, the easiest way to start a new habit is to attach it to a habit we have to do every single day. So for example, for myself, I know I'm going to be eating 3 meals a day. I'm going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I also know I'm going to be showering in the afternoon. I'll be waking up at one point. I'll be going to sleep at some time. And I'll also be brushing my teeth and whatnot. I'll be driving to work. There's plenty of examples of things that have to be done every single day, regardless. The easiest way to start a new habit would be to add it onto one of those things that you have to do. So for instance, again, for me, when I was talking about one of my internships, I lived out in Colorado, and that's where I really learned about habit formation and learned about like the psychology of it. And we were encouraged to kind of use it on ourselves while we were during the duration of that internship, which was 4 months. I really wanted to focus on mindfulness while I was out there. So I really started getting engaged with a mindfulness practice of just meditating. I started very slow, but I decided that I would attach that meditation or that mindfulness to every time I ate. So for breakfast and lunch and dinner, I started off with 5 minutes of meditation before each of those. And by the end of the internship, I was meditating 20 minutes before each of those meals for a total of an hour a day. Eventually, I didn't keep up that habit because I changed up and moved to Texas. But during that time, I slowly built up. Like I mentioned, I started at 5 minutes, then I progressed to 10, and then finally I was able to get to 20 just by stacking it onto something that you have to do every day. It's a cue that'll say, oh, now I have to do this. And it could be something very simple and silly. It could be, I want to do 10 push-ups every time I brush my teeth. You do that twice a day. Eventually, you'll build up some strength, and then you'll have some new goals and habits to work on later on. So again, you just want to start as small as possible, and then you want to add complexity to it once you feel pretty safe that you established that last habit, and now it's part of your routine and lifestyle. Another thing that we want to keep in mind when we are trying to change habits is we want to set up the environment to be as positive as possible for those changes. Um, for instance, let's say your trainer, your nutritionist, your doctor wants you to start drinking more water. Well, the easiest way to do that would be to have your water bottle in front of you at all times when you're at your desk. It's a little challenging these days if you have to wear a mask at work, but if you just have that water bottle on your desk at all times, you look down towards your keyboard and then you see it. If your water bottle is not there at all times, you're going to totally forget about the water. And then by 4 p.m., you'll say, oh, forgot I was even supposed to drink water today. And this can be used throughout the day for different reasons. So the other ones I use an example is foam rolling next to a TV. Let's say you want to work on your flexibility, but you can never find that time to carve out throughout the day. Again, you want to set up the environment with very positive visual cues. So if you want to work on your flexibility, maybe put your foam roller right in front of your TV. That way, maybe you're winding down at the end of the day, you turn on Netflix, turn on whatever, and now you see that foam roll in front of you. It's a lot harder to turn it down if it's just screaming right in front of you as opposed to being in the other room. And then again, another one that I personally like to do that I started utilizing recently is writing down my goals next to my bedstand. It's very hard to wake up and go to sleep without seeing it now. And now I'm able to read it every single day. So I start my day off right and I end my day off right as well by just reiterating my goals so I know what to focus on for the day and also what to focus on for the next day. But when we are trying to set up this environment, it's all about bringing awareness to the things that kind of bring us one direction or bring us the other. We'll talk about that on the next one, but we really just want to recognize when we're doing something that might be detrimental to our goals. And again, it's going to be all based on the environment that's around us. We want to make sure it's conducive to positive changes towards your goals. So just as an environment can be healthy, we can really establish to make sure everything around us is just helping us reach our goals. It can also have that negative impact of being surrounded by, or really we're just trying to eliminate exposure to the bad habits. So we could have a healthy environment, but we could also have a really negative environment that kind of pushes us further away from our goals. So again, these are just examples that might happen throughout the day. And one example I like for myself is placing snacks out of your eyesight. So it's very easy if you have a bowl of any kind of snacks or there's just out in the open to just snack on those throughout the day. But as soon as you put it behind a door, put it in a drawer, it makes it a lot harder you essentially put a barrier between yourself and that bad habit. So now it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to start thinking about, is this the right choice or not? The other one I liked is putting your phone on airplane mode before bed. So again, if you're trying to get a little bit more rest, trying to de-stress a little bit more, just turning your phone on airplane mode could help a ton. It'll make sure you're not staring at your blue light before sleep. So you might be able to get a little bit more restful night of sleep instead of just scrolling through your phone over 30 minutes before you go to bed. And then if you have troubles being distracted with your workouts, maybe you have your phone typically receiving a lot of texts and a lot of calls that aren't necessarily urgent, it would be better to turn that phone on silent when we're working out as opposed to constantly being distracted and allowing those alerts and alarms to set us off. Now we get distracted, we might go into the other room and we might make up an excuse to not work out any further. The one that I see with a lot of my clients that work remotely is having their gym equipment maybe right in their kitchen or right in their family room, living room. It's tough if we don't have a place to separate our workout from our work time. So if we're able to kind of develop a room, maybe a basement, garage, where we can separate our workout from our work, we're much less likely to get distracted. Because then, let's say you're only able to set up in the kitchen, you might start cleaning things in between, or if you set up in the family room, you might turn on the TV saying, oh, it's all right, I'm still getting my workout in, but very quickly that will deteriorate and we will no longer be getting that workout in. It'll start slowly turn into just doing work again as opposed to working out. So we really just want to create an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. And we do that by taking all the distractions out of the environment and making sure we have positive visual cues surrounding us. So as we touched on before, we want to re-engineer that habit loop. For the example for myself, I was trying to just get off of mindless social media in the morning. I replaced the routine, and now I feel like I'm a little bit more efficient with my time. I still don't want to scroll through my phone right when I wake up, but like I said before, it's small changes over time. So eventually, hopefully I won't be doing that and I'll be reading a book instead. But there's a few questions we want to ask when we that you do. And what I mean by that is, what is it that you do that is taking you away from your goals? Are you being distracted? Are you making excuses? What is the hard thing that's deterring you from everything you want to work towards? And then, as I mentioned with the habit loop, we have to identify what is the cue, what is the thing that's kind of sets you on the path for what you'll be doing for the next moments. What is that routine? And what is the reward we get for going through that routine? And finally, what is the solution? So the solution is, how do we essentially reconfigure this, switch up the routine, and then we need to incorporate that new routine with the original cues and rewards, and hopefully that new habit will stick over time, and now it'll just become part of our lifestyle, and we won't even need to think about it anymore. It'll just become automatic. So these are the 5 steps to forming a process, or sorry, for forming a habit. We first, again, need to identify what is your goal. So it could be something like you want to put on muscle mass, you want to de-stress, you want to lose weight, you want to achieve a certain weight. It could be anything really. But we first need to establish where we want to go before we can kind of pave that path to get there. So we start, where do you want to go? So for a lot of these examples, we'll react with a few examples later on, but we'll go through all of these steps with it. Second is the behavioral change. So typically, I like to list out 5 behavioral changes that I can make to try to reach that outcome goal. It's easy just to say I have this goal, but now it's very hard to be like, all right, how can I work towards that goal? We really need a plan to get there. Let's say, for example, I'll use myself as an example. Let's say I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle mass, just a random number. I would write out 5 things that I could do to try to achieve that goal. So maybe I need to increase the calories I take. Maybe I need to work out more, work out longer, work out harder. There's a lot of different variables. Maybe I need to de-stress. There's plenty of things that I can do. Those would be the behavioral changes, or changing up the workouts I do in general. But after we define those behavior changes, we're kind of just going to identify one and stick with that to start. Like I mentioned before, just starting small, and then we'll add to it later on. But after we have that behavior change, let's say I am going to increase my calories to try to put on more weights. We now need to find a way to track it. So there's a good app for tracking calories, which is MyFitnessPal. But also here at the Chamber Center, we have a body comp analysis device, which I'm also able to see if I'm increasing muscle mass over time. My current habits, how can I now add on this MyFitnessPal, this increase in calorie to an old habits? Well, like I mentioned before, I eat 3 times a day. So what I could do is go onto MyFitnessPal every time I eat, input the calories, and find out if I'm eating enough or if I need to add more to each of those meals. And finally, you need to have a time frame. If I were just to say I want to add 5 pounds of muscle mass and don't have any kind of time frame, we don't really have a good aim. So I could finish in a week, I could finish in 3 months. If we don't have a designated timeline, there is no set start and date essentially. So typically I like to recommend just starting out with a month. That's the easiest way to go about it, 4 weeks. That's what we'll use for these examples in the next few slides. So as I mentioned, one of them that we'll use is lose 10 pounds. Slight typo, sorry about that one. So again, we're going to go through identifying it. What is it that you do? Maybe it's that you order out for lunch every single day. And what is that cue? Or what is the cue for this routine or this habit? Well, we have lunch breaks. You might start feeling hungry. The routine, we might be ordering the fastest, easiest option. If in Morristown, there's a lot of different foods to choose from, so it makes it very easy to just pick fast food, for instance. The reward for that habits would be a quick satisfaction and just comfort from eating that. But what would be the solution to fix this? It would be preparing healthier lunches at home if we're trying to lose 10 pounds. So the new routine would be meal prepping beforehand. So how would we incorporate this new routine into the original cues and rewards? We would just eat those healthier meals we brought to work for lunch break for quick satisfaction and to satiate the hunger. And then later on, I believe maybe the next one, we'll talk about it again with losing 10 pounds as an example. Actually, it's right here. Perfect. So like we discussed earlier, the outcome goal, we established that it's lose 10 pounds. The behavior change is making better food choices by packing our lunches in advance. And how would we track something like that? How do we make sure we have healthy food options? Well, for instance, again, I'm going to use myself for an example. I go into Whole Foods every time with a grocery list, and I make sure I do not deviate from that list. I will not grab chips. I will not grab all the fancy things they have there. I make sure I stick right to that grocery list. And I also make sure I just save those receipts and see exactly if I kept up with what I initially set out for. So that's how I typically track that. And then the current habit we do, as I discussed earlier, we all most likely cook dinner. What we could do then is just cook a little bit extra and then use that as our meal for the next day. So that would be the easiest way to meal prep. Make sure we have a healthy option for the next day. And then again, we want to use a time frame or a set time and date, which would be 4 weeks as our example here. We'll use another example. This one's slightly different, but very similar. We're still following that habit loop. The goal might be to increase strength and energy. So what is it that we do? Again, this is kind of asking the question is, what are we doing that's not helping with our goals? We might be making excuses for prioritizing our exercises. So as opposed to, we'll go through the habit loop actually. The cue, again, and the workday might happen. We want to just go home and just relax. And we tell ourselves, all right, I'm going to go home, relax for a little bit, and then I'll get back up off the couch and work out after that. Well, that's a very hard thing to do for most people. So as opposed to going home first and trying to work out, the new routine might be just going to the gym or getting your workout right afterwards. Again, the cue is the same. We're leaving work. The reward's the same. You're still going to get relaxation and stress relief afterwards, but we're just changing the routine. As opposed to going home and sitting on the couch, you're now going to the gym straight from work. And again, you're always going to leave work potentially, so that's an easy one to add on to. So incorporating that into the new routine, we might pack a pair of workout clothes and then go straight to the gym after the work day, as opposed to going home. Breaking it down like we did a moment ago, the outcome goal might be increased strength and energy. The behavior change, again, you might list 5, but you focus in on 1. You might work out 2 times per week instead. From a tracking perspective, what we use here at the Chamber Center is we use Mind Body, which allows us to schedule sessions in advance. That way, when it comes to your schedule, maybe you want to work out Tuesdays and Thursdays, you might get an alert that Tuesday you have a workout 4 p.m. It's harder to make excuses if you already have it in your calendar. So now you'll go right from work straight to the gym, or you could set it in. If you don't use Mind Body, you can use it on your calendar on your phone. Same thing. Just set your reminders for yourself to go to the gym after work. That way it's harder if you have those reminders. You kind of have to work against yourself if you aren't following your own reminders. Again, the current habits before was driving home from work, but now you'll be going to the gym instead. So that's what we're attaching it to. And again, I just like using the time frame of 4 weeks, since that seems to be easiest for everyone, since just going from a month-to-month basis. So here's a few other tips just to help stay on to reach those goals and following that new habits. You want to find ways to track your habits. It could be something as simple as just marking an X on your calendar whenever you work out. But like I mentioned before, you might want to track it with MyFitnessPal with calories. You might want to put things on your calendar, on your phone, or on Mind Body. There's plenty of ways to do it. I like to write things down, like I write at the bottom. You want to, sometimes it's easiest just to write things down and then kind of cross them out as you go throughout the day. But you also want to find ways to work around those dilemmas, work around dilemmas or excuses that might come up along the way. So let's say you want to work out and you dedicate an hour to working out. Something might come up where now you might not have enough time. Maybe a meeting got pushed back a little bit further than you expected. It's very easy to say, well, now I don't have my hour, I can't work out. There we go. And then there goes your whole new habit. There goes your goals, and you're not on track anymore. We need to find ways to kind of work around that and just still get small victories along the way. So maybe you write down, if I don't have an hour of workouts, I'll foam roll for 10 minutes instead. Just finding ways to still stay on track, not being able to get the most, not getting what you initially wanted out of it, but still making sure you're not going backwards. And then, like I said, setting aside time to work on your goals by putting them in your calendar. I do that every single day, so I make sure I have time to meditate, but also just work on myself as well. So just as a review, you really want to start as small as possible when you're trying to stay on track with new goals, or trying to develop a new goal and trying to build habits to work towards that goal. So as I say, if you can't work out 3 times a week, don't be afraid of just starting 1 or 2. That's not a loss. You're still working towards your goals. Maybe in the summer, you might have a little bit more time, or maybe you just need a little bit of time to get into that rhythm of working out 1 time a week and then working up to 2, working out to 3. I never recommend working out. If you're brand new to working out, I never recommend trying more than 3 times a week. Because like I mentioned before, sometimes we have that mentality of, I'm going to train 4 times a week. We miss one of those days, and then we just completely abandon those goals we had. And then even if you want to work it down a little bit smaller, you can't work out for an hour, maybe just work out for 30 minutes instead. If you can't get your full strength workout in, just go on the treadmill for 30 minutes. You're still getting something out of it as opposed to nothing. And then again, if you can't walk for 30 minutes during lunch, start with 5, and again, build up as you go. We want to create a healthy environment for ourselves to make it as easy as possible to maintain good habits to work towards our goals. So eliminate all the negative influences you have around you if you can, make it as easy as possible, and try to stack the habits you want to create on habits that you have to do throughout the day. So again, for examples, you have to eat most likely all day, throughout the day. You have to wake up, you have to go to sleep, brush teeth, shower, drive. Those are the ones I like to use because I know I'm going to have to do them at some point. So that is what would be called stacking habits. And lastly, track your progress. So put workouts on your calendar beforehand so it's harder to make excuses later on. Track nutrition through something like MyFitnessPal. And at the beginning of the day, maybe create a list of all the things you want to accomplish and cross them off as you go. That's what I personally do for myself. Lastly, another quote I like: one of the most effective things you can do to build a better habit is to join a culture where your desired behaviors is the normal behavior, and you already have something in common with the group. So you want to, again, this is kind of like an environment quote. You want to surround yourself with people that are kind of trying to work towards the same goals that you are, but also trying to help you out with reaching your goals. So here at the Chamber Center, we have a few things that can kind of help keep you on track, but also help develop those goals and help work towards those goals over time. So we have a program called the Lifestyle Change Program, where we have a group of individuals that will get to work through group training, nutritional counseling, and well-being coach for 8 weeks. That has been a positive change. We've seen some great results for all of those that were in the program over when we started in October of last year. And hopefully we'll be rebooting that sometime soon. But we also have group training where you can train with other individuals that are working towards the same goal as you. But if you like a little bit more one-on-one tension, or if there's anything more in particular that you need to work on, personal training works as well. And then others within the center can help with well-being coach to help maybe establish those goals, keep you on track. And then nutritional counseling if you need help just tidying up everything you do eating-wise to maybe help work towards losing 10 pounds or gaining muscle, whatever those nutritional or aesthetic goals may be. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach us at the Chamber Center for Wellbeing. You're also welcome to call us, but be on the lookout for emails for any kind of special promotions, which you'll have some after this seminar. But I just want to thank you for attending this. That was a quick 30 minutes. If you have any question, April has been helping out with that, I believe. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you for coming.